So to my knowledge, we're still in the tale of the ancient crow Bushunda, who's having this very interesting talk with Vasishtha. Going on.
Kale Paramaha Yantra Vahayo Shri Mahinayo Hridakasha Shishino Agni Shoma Swarupayo Jagrat Swapna Sushupteshu Sadaiva Samarupayo Durlakshya Vidyamanapi Gati Sukshma Taranayo Pranapanao Ubhav Ete Spanda Shakti Sadagati. The more subtle movement of these two vital energies, which drive or direct the great machine or instrument of the body without fatigue, which are like the sun and the moon in the firmament of the heart, which are of the nature of Agni and Soma, or the deities symbolic of fire and water, and which are always of equal nature in the waking, dream, and deep sleep states, is difficult to be perceived, though existing. These two vibratory energies, prana and apana, are always in motion or active.
Note, so, go ahead, read the note.
The above verses leave no doubt as to the nature of prana and apana dealt with in the earlier verses.
So the idea here again is a reference to the Raja Yoga tradition, where we have pranayama. Prana is not breath. Prana is the vital energy, the life force. It's very much akin to Shakti itself. But the yogi can, to a tremendous degree, control the prana in the body through the control of the breath. And the two great forces he's referring to are the main prana, which is inhalation, and apana, which is exhalation or excretion. And these are the two vibratory forces that control all the functions of the body. Going on.
Urdhva Gatsu Sthita Prano Pana Puna Avakstitaha. Prana exists going upwards. On the other hand, apana exists downwards.
So those are the basic forces. Now, what's interesting, when you study Chandogya Upanishad, and they start making a reference to the prana and the apana, they reverse it. And for example, if you read Christopher Wallace in his Recognition Sutras or his something of Tantra, they'll reverse them. And it was my friend D.C. Rao who turned me on to an interesting point. When we talk about the upward energy being apana and the downward energy being prana, the reference is to the gods. So it's very cool. The gods' exhalation is our inhalation. And our exhalation is the gods' inhalation. So you've got this wonderful energy transfer between humankind and the devas. Never seen that in Chandogya before. He pointed that out to me. It's really, really cool. So it not only just means the energy in the body itself, but it also means the movement of energy throughout the whole creation, ultimately. And we see this idea, I call it the great sine wave of life, the sine wave. The tide comes in, the tide goes out. It's night, it's day. Seasons travel. We have this movement of energy. Good days, bad days. Going on.
Brahmyon muktatvam prananam yadvadambuja kotarat swarasena tayantyanam tamdhira rechakam viduhu dvadashanga lupurpantyam bahyam akramatam tatah prananam angasansparsho yasa puraka uchyate bahyat parapata yantrapane yatvarjitah yoyam prapurana sparsho vidutamapi purakam. The outgoing of the pranas or the vital airs whose efforts have been given up by their own inclination, as from the hollow of a lotus, and their occupying or extending up to 12 finger breadths externally from there, i.e. the nostrils, is known as rechaka or exhalation by the thighs. The full contact with the body of the pranas or the vital airs is called puraka or inhalation. When the outgoing breath returns within from the outside without effort, the sensation of filling up that arises is also known as puraka or inhalation. Note, the involuntary nature of respiration is indicated above.
Yes. So what is the primary effect of the life force in the body? The breath itself. The breath itself. When you quit breathing, after a while you'll be dead. Which is one of the reasons why so many traditions have the observation of the breath as a very good point of attention for meditation. Why? Because your breath is always with you. The breath is always with you. And most of us in the West here do not breathe fully. We do what we call chest breathing. Just it's shallow, we don't get enough air. So when we practice pranayama, or if you study singing, you learn to take a breath all the way down, where the back expands, everything opens up. You get a much fuller breath. Now, from a purely medical standpoint, you more efficiently oxygenate your cells. But it's energetic as well. It's energetic as well. So we talked a bit last week about the value, if you're drawn to it, of studying pranayama. Now, remember, this book gives equal weight to Raja Yoga and Jnana Yoga. Those of us who are in the Jnana Yoga tradition, we are a Shankara people. That's what we're trained in. You don't need to do these things, but they can be helpful to some people. Any thoughts on this? Going on.
What did he mean by the first sentence? He says the outgoing of the pranas whose efforts have been given up by their own inclination.
This means natural breathing, as opposed to doing things like the fire breath, where you're forcing it.
Right. So not conscious breathing.
Yeah, just natural breathing, when you just breathe naturally. All right, going on. Like when someone's asleep. If you watch someone who's sleeping and they're breathing, you'll find their chest doesn't move that much, but their belly goes up and down. Have you ever noticed that? Mm-hmm. See, that's where naturally the breath comes down much more deeply in the body. Going on.
Apanestam gate prana yavattabhyudatte hridi tavat sa kumbhakavastha yogi bihi yanubhuyate. When the exhaled air has vanished by being drawn fully within, and as long as the inhaled air has not risen in the heart for being expelled in exhalation, so long is that state of retention which is experienced by yogins.
Yes. So you have these, what they call bandhas, which are these like the chin lock, and you have the bandha when you tighten your sphincter. But the idea is you can lock the energy flow, and then with your mind, move it in various places. So you have these you can totally exhale and then pull your inner organs in, all sorts of these various pranayama exercises that yogis learn to do, Raja yogis, which have to do with being able to control the energy. It will extend life. It will improve health. There's lots and lots of benefits to it for those who are drawn to it. Going on. I don't know if you've ever seen those pictures or videos of yogis. You can watch them, their whole intestinal muscles of their stomach. They go. You ever seen them do that? It looks really weird, moving all that stuff around in their stomach. All just learning this kind of control. Going on.
Techaka purakashchaiva kumbhakascha hridastitaha bahyashchabhyantaracheti tatlakshana dakshitaha. The exhalation, the inhalation, and the retention exist as the three parts of control of prana. They are characterized by the attributes, external and internal.
So those are the three fundamental essentials: inhalation, exhalation, and retention. Retention of the breath on the inhale, and locking in the retention on the exhale. Both are practices. I'll teach you just a simple one, which I use. It's very, I use it because it lowers my blood pressure. So did we do this? Did I teach you alternate nostril breathing? Yes, no?
I think in one of the classes.
Okay, you take your two fingers, pointer finger, middle finger, put them on your forehead. You do it with your right hand. You use your thumb to regulate your right nostril and your fourth finger to regulate your left nostril. And so you'll close off your left nostril, open up the right nostril, inhale, 2, 3, 4. Close them both off, hold, 2, 3, 4. Open left side, exhale, 2, 3, 4. Relax, 2, 3, 4. Inhale left, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Exhale right, 2, 3, 4. Relax, 2, 3, 4. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Exhale left, 2, 3, 4. Relax, 2, 3, 4. Inhale left, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Exhale right, 2, 3, 4. Relax, 2, 3, 4. Inhale right, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. Relax, 2, 3, 4. Inhale left, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Exhale right, 2, 3, 4. Now just breathe naturally, where you're not controlling. Anybody feel dizzy in their head? But it'll really slow everything down. And it drops your blood pressure, evens things out. So, like if you have a presentation to make at work, do a little bit alternate nostril breathing. You just do 3 rounds. You watch everything will. You'll be far more relaxed as you go out. All right, that's just one. There's all sorts of other ones. I could teach you fire breath. I mean, I'm not a great Raja Yogi. I mean, these are just things I've picked up over the years that I've found useful. All right. Oh, here's another thing that's kind of ancillary, anyway, sideways in the noun. Ancillary, that's the word I want. Has anybody ever done any breath work or rebirthing? I think they used to call it rebirthing. It goes by other names now. Anybody in the Zoom done any of that? All based on breath work, and people will regress. We'll go all the way back to birth trauma. I did it once and flipped into a previous incarnation, which was kind of weird. There's lots and lots of value in doing many of these different breath work kinds of practices. And of course, in India, it's been a science for thousands of years. Going on.
Section 5. Chirajivita Karanam, the cause of long life. Avyagram asmin vyapare brahmam pariharan manaha dinai katipayairaiva param apnoti kevalam. Steady in this practice, avoiding external contacts, the mind attains to the supreme state absolutely, merely in a matter of days.
So by doing pranayama for extended periods, long periods, but in a matter of days, he's saying, your mind will begin to become steady. The mind will begin to become steady. Again, best to study asana and pranayama with a qualified teacher. And I told you about the Iyengar book, which I strongly recommend if you're unable to work with a teacher. Going on.
Esha hi chittavrishanti maya. Esha hi chittavrishanti maya prana samadhina. Kramena nena samprapta swayam atmani nirmala. By this method of bringing together or accomplishment of the vital airs, this repose of the mind in the stainless self was indeed obtained by me spontaneously. So, Bushunda, I don't know how he was able to do alternate nostril breathing because he didn't have fingers on his wings, but, who knows? But in other words, he did pranayama and he was able to attain samadhi and therefore
draw his attention from this world. And this is what allowed the whole world to pass by and not affect him. So the implication here, this is all allegory. As yogis, as Vedantins, I like to use the idea of your body's like a car. Some of us have a Volkswagen, some of us have a BMW, some of us have a Lamborghini, some of us just have a little scooter. But whatever body you're given, yoga becomes easier when forgetting the body is easy to accomplish. Health is the greatest wealth, and you don't realize its value till you lose it. So those of us who have lost our health, especially if we're in pain, boy, does that draw your mind's attention. It's hard to do yoga. So the value of asana, regular exercise, good diet, pranayama, is with a little bit of attention, you then can forget the body in meditation. If, on the other hand, you are identified or attached, and your goal is, I'll get better dates if I look really young, so I'm going to work out a whole lot and do all this yoga so I look good, so I can get on Grindr and Tinder and stuff like that. Yeah, then you're misusing the practice. Or if you're terrified of death, I'm going to do all this stuff. If you practice all this stuff and you live to be 110, you're still going to die. So for the woman or man of knowledge, the mark of that is they really don't care whether they're in the body or not. You will know what you're led to do. Any thoughts on this?
Hey, Jim, this is David.
Hi, David.
Hey, I have my question is, do you have any recommendations for what to do if we are in quite a bit of pain? I had quite a bad pinched nerve for the last month, and so that definitely has me present to the body.
Yeah,
And,
you know exactly what I'm talking about then.
yeah, definitely.
What
yeah,
part of it, in your neck, in your lower back, your arm, where?
yeah, it's in my neck, and then I can feel it pretty much from there down through my left shoulder blade and into my left arm and to my hand.
And you're how old now?
43.
Yeah, that's a little young to be having that stuff. Well, you might try doing some asana, doing some yoga posture. Go find yourself a good yoga teacher, not somebody who, is doing it just as exercise at the gym, but someone who's really studied it.
Mm.
And they might be able to give you some stretching exercises, some asanas to do that will help that. This fellow I've been talking about, BKS Iyengar, he actually began to study asana, the postures. I think he was about your age because he was having terrible back trouble. And he was able to heal himself through that. So that's one of the things that I can recommend. I would stay away from the oxycodone and stuff like that if you can avoid it. Any thoughts?
Yeah, it's I started physical therapy for it last week, and they actually one of the exercises they gave me is essentially child's pose. So that that I see a little bit of a connection there. But talking to a legitimate yoga teacher is not a bad idea.
And I would see if you can find a yoga teacher who themselves is not some 25-year-old. Get somebody who's a little older, who's maybe had to deal with some of these issues with their own body.
Mm-hmm.
But report back to me what you find. Now,
Will do.
I, being a Vedantan, and one of the things we Vedantins understand very deeply is the entire phenomenal world is nothing but vibration held together by thought, sankalpa. If you would like, I'll do some work for you in my own meditation.
Thank you.
Okay.
Well, do you have any thoughts on, I guess, how to approach meditation when prayer or when pain is there?
Well, what I would do is, when your body's not participating very well, it's perfectly okay to meditate lying down. One of the things you might try doing is taking a towel and roll it up and lie on the floor and put the towel behind your neck and see if that relieves some of the pressure. And just meditate lying down. But from the standpoint, if the pain is there, you just be present to it. What else can you do? It's just a sensation in the end. And there's the pain itself. Then there's the natural instinctual resistance to the pain, which adds another layer of suffering. And we may not be able to deal with the physical pain itself, but we can work on that resistance to it. I want it to go away. I want it to go away. Yeah. But I will work for you.
Thank you, Jim. That's great. I'm glad you brought up the resistance. I
don't blame. It's the body's instinct.
Yeah, that does feel like a big part of it, actually.
And from the standpoint of your life, are there stressors? Your spine is your basic foundation of life, your direction, where everything is all in alignment with purpose and stuff like that. It's always useful to see the body as a great metaphor. If you're having problems with your feet, they're what move you forward. Is there something in the way of my moving forward? If you've got stomach trouble, are there resentments or unresolved, undigested feelings or anger or stuff like that? So, you can just use your body, and it's not always one-to-one, but it can be helpful to kind of see the body as a great metaphor, because the mind and the body are not separate. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good question. All right, next one.
न भूतं न भविष्यश्च चिन्तयामि कदाचन दृष्टिमालम्ब तिष्ठामि Vatmanam ihatmana. I neither think of the past nor the future at any time. Resting upon or resorting to the view or perception of the present with the mind, I remain here.
Yes. So here is the mark of the crow of steady wisdom for you and me. Give up our concern for the past. No worry or agitation about the future. Having what the scripture calls shunya chitta, empty mind. Going on.
Na tushyate shubha praptao, na shubhe vashvapi khidyate, mano mama samam nityam, tena jivam yanamayaha. My mind is not delighted on the arrival of good fortune, nor does it suffer misery in misfortunes. It is ever equal, unaffected by circumstances. Due to that, I live free from disease.
Yes. So the great implication here is the subtle cause of disease are the kleshas, the afflictions of the mind. Now, any of us who may have friends who are engaged in any of this new age kind of healing work, Terry Cole Whitaker, Louise Hay, Marianne Williamson, you can heal your life, you can manifest things. Where did that stuff come from? There are a couple lineage chains. One of the big ones, a lot of these people got their training in a tradition called religious science, which was founded by a fellow named Ernest Holmes. Ernest Holmes was the last student of a woman named Emma Curtis Hopkins, who had been a student of many, many traditions, but also Mary Baker Eddy, the founder of Christian Science. She broke away from it rather early on. And Holmes also was very keen on a fellow named Thomas Troward. Troward was a judge in Punjab in the mid-19th century. He was actually born in India. His parents, Brits in civil service during the British Raj. Went back to England, was educated, then came back to India and served as a municipal judge there. The biographies say he learned the local languages. Might have been Punjabi, more likely was probably Hindi, but he may have also had some teaching in Sanskrit, because it says in the biographies that he also studied with local holy men. And he goes off to England and he begins to lecture on what he calls the creative process in the individual. It's exactly what we call sankalpa. But the whole idea of how healing is done in all these New Age traditions traces itself back to India. My suspicion is he was familiar with Yoga Vasishtha and maybe some of these other yogic texts. Because look at what Bushunda says. Read that verse again, if you would be so kind, and pay attention to what he says about disease and health.
My mind is not delighted on the arrival of good fortune, nor does it suffer misery in misfortunes. It is ever equal, unaffected by circumstances. Due to that, I live free from disease.
What's the implication? What's the opposite idea? If his mind is regretting the past, caught up in resentment, or filled with worry about the future, the two basic places the mind goes when it's not in the now, when we don't have samadrishta, this equality of vision, when we're in perfect acceptance of all that comes and all that goes. Because of that, he is free from disease. So in yoga, we do not have the Cartesian mind-body split. I have my mind, which is separate from my body. Yoga says mind and body are just a subtle and gross form of the same thing. It's like an iceberg. When you're traveling through the North Atlantic on a ship, you see an iceberg. I think they say it's 3/4 or 9/10 of the iceberg is under the water, meaning it's not visible. So you look around and you see bodies here. That's only a small portion of what a human being is. The vast majority of what a human being is not visible to the physical senses. But it's all the same. It's all the same organism. Subtle and gross. The difference being in vibration. Physical body is grosser or slower vibrations, like low notes on the piano. The mind and intellect are subtler, more refined vibrations, like the high notes on the piano. It's all one continuum. So some schools of healing say, change your physical behavior and your mind will follow. Others say, change your thinking and your physical world will change. Yoga says, yes, both work. Because in the end, it's all one continuum. So, don't worry. Be happy. Laugh. Have gratitude. A lot of the 12-step traditions and things like that, they advocate making a gratitude list on a daily basis. Wonderful tool. It changes our attitude to be in gratitude. All sorts of things. If I surrender, not my will, but thy will be done, all the stress goes out of my life. So not only will you have peace of mind, but it will maximize your health. Now, some physical problems are set in motion from the time we're born. Our prarabdha karma, we could blunt the force of them through our conscious use of the law of sankalpa. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. You need to just be in acceptance. Just be in acceptance. Any thoughts on this? Very important point. I was talking with a particular student who's had chronic stomach trouble. Her psychotherapist said it's undigested resentments and hurt feelings she's not dealing with. She might as well be talking about yoga. So it's not magic in the sense of, oh, all I have to do is change thought today and everything's going to be fixed. It's these underlying, deeply held beliefs that frequently we need to deal with. Some of them are easier to change than others. All right, going on.
Ayam bandhu paraschayam mamayam ayamantatha iti brahmanna janami tenasmin chirajivitaha. This one is a kinsman, and this other one is a stranger. This one is mine, this one is otherwise. Sage, I do not apprehend or feel thus, hence I am long-lived.
So he's giving up all this relational notion of I-ness and mine-ness. I like this person, I don't like that person. I'm related to this person, so I have attachment. These other people I could give a damn about. I used to love what Swamiji said. He used to say, my love is like a fire hose. Whoever gets in front of me gets lost. Love as God loves, and God has no taste. God loves people you and I would have nothing to do with. No discrimination. Practice loving. I was talking with a fellow last night who's a former Franciscan brother, and we were talking about St. Francis. He's one of my heroes. And how Francis really made it a practice. If there was something in his life and he could see that he had an aversion, he would step into it. And there's the very famous story. I think it's when he attained self-realization. One of his greatest fears, as many people in the Middle Ages had, was of leprosy. And down below Assisi was a leper colony. And, you know, he started off by being able to attend to them in some way, but fear. Finally, there was a particular leper who was very disfigured. And Francis comes up and kisses him on the mouth. He walked right into his greatest fear. This is good yoga. So when that mental stressor is gone, Master Jesus said, resist not evil. That helps him to have a long life, meaning it maximizes the potentiality for a healthy body and a peaceful mind. Next one.
Asha pasha vinuttanya chittavritte samahitah samsparsham na dadamyanta tena jivamya namayah etatte kathitam brahman yathasmin chirajivitah. I do not allow or permit within the contact of any mental disposition or thought prompted or impelled by the snare of hope remaining composed. Hence, I live without disease. Sage, this has been narrated to you as to how I am long lived.
So, what does he mean by living without hope? Now, there's one kind of hope which is good. We have hope that if I have faith in the scriptures, if I engage in sadhana, that liberation is possible for me in this very life. That's not the hope that he's talking about. The hope that's to be abandoned is, I'm so miserable. I hope I get a girlfriend or a boyfriend. I hope I get a better job. I hope that the world situation will change. I hope the politics will be in what I want. Meaning I externalize my well-being into some future event imagined or possible. And I postpone living peacefully in the now. So, whatever your life is like, right at this very moment, what if it's going to be like this for the rest of eternity? In Dante's Inferno, the slogan emblazoned above the gate of hell is "Abandon hope, all ye who enter here." I say that is the door, the banner to heaven. Abandon the negative kind. Be in acceptance, in surrender, in the now. Watch your life change. I have a very dear friend that I've known for over 30 years. And he got hepatitis C and had it for decades. 8 years ago, he took one of those new drugs and was cured of hep C, finally. And at the time, the doc said, "You've got cirrhosis of your liver." I said, "Oh, okay." Didn't particularly bother him or anything like that. 8 years later, he starts to have liver failure. Terminal cirrhosis of the liver. And it got to the point where his kidneys were starting to shut down. The doc said, "We can keep you alive a bit, but if you don't get a new liver, you're going to be dead in a couple of weeks." You have anybody who's been on a transplant list? It's a crapshoot. 5 days later, they give him a call. "We have a liver. Come in today." He got his liver transplant. But there was a small cancer in his bile duct that they didn't see. And when they put him on the anti-rejection drugs so that his body wouldn't reject the liver, the cancer just went wild. So I cut back on the anti-rejection drugs, gave him chemotherapy, didn't work. So a couple days ago, he told me he's on hospice. 2 to 4 months they give him. But he's a pretty good yogi. So he's really learning now to live literally one day at a time. He can't project in the future, oh my God, what it's going to be like when I actually die. Because he's going to do it sooner rather than later. Today I don't have pain. Today I'm going to invite to see so-and-so. Marvelous to walk that final journey with people, especially if they're spiritually prepared. But he had to give up the hope that there would be a cure. There wasn't. Yeah, miracles happened. Even when we're dying, we can have peace. Any thoughts on this? All right. Thanks first.
Aho prokta tavodanta param vismaya karanat eva mukta tama mantra maya bhuyo divangatam. Ah, your account has been told, since it is the cause of great wonder. Thus, having spoken and having bidden farewell to him, I went again to heaven.
So, Vasishtha, you went to heaven?
Yeah.
Is this Vasishtha speaking? Yes, so.
I think so.
Yes, so Vasishtha leaves Pushunda and he goes to a heaven realm. Going on.
Yate krita yugasyadau punatenasmin sangatah madhye trayago yasyasya jatatvam ripu sudanam punardhyashtame varshe tatrai bopari bhubritah milito bhuta bhushundo me tathaivarajrupavan. Again, in the beginning of the Krita age that has elapsed, I have met with him, destroyer of enemies. You are born in the midst of this Treta age. Again, in the 8th year now, that is of the current age, Bhushunda was met by me on the mountain there itself, possessing the same form as before, not subject to old age. Note, Yuga is an age of the world. There are 4 ages or yugas according to the Puranas: Krita or Satya, Treta, Dwapara, and Kali, which is the current age, of which a little over 5,000 years are supposed to have elapsed. The duration of the 4 yugas are respectively 1,720,000, 1,296,000, 864,000, and 432,000 human years. The 4 together comprise 4,320,000 years, which is called a Mahayuga. 1,000 such Mahayugas constitute a Kalpa, which is equivalent to a day of Brahma, the creator God. There is universal destruction at the end of each Kalpa and a fresh creation thereafter.
So it's kind of difficult because our understanding of how long humans have been around is in tension with these numbers. So the whole point is this world of name and form is not linear, it's circular in time. So what do we do with this? What do we do with this? If we look at our lives, you can look at what your current experience is as an incarnation. You go back a decade, many of the things were different. That would be a prior incarnation, as it were. Something stays the same. For ordinary people identified with their ego, that sense of me as an individual garners experience, lets go of things, gets new things. But at the core of our being, there's something that's independent of all the movement of time. So whether or not you're going to come back in another kalpa, another yuga, I have no idea. Is this an accurate cosmology, or is it just allegorical mythology? I don't know. But you don't need to believe in it from a cosmic standpoint in order to get value from the teaching. Going on.
Jim, that's just like saying 70 times 7. Forgive 70 times 7.
Exactly, or that may be a little more realistic. Some of us need to work really hard at forgiving. But yeah. But in, like, for example, in the Hebrew Bible, I think Noah was supposed to have lived 900 years. It doesn't mean that humans had longer lives back then. These are all allegorical. All right, going on.
Idam te kathitam chitram bhushundo danta muktanam shrutva vicharya chaivantaha yat yuktam tat samachara. Thus has been narrated to you the wonderful and excellent history of Bhushunda. Having heard and examined it within yourself, do what is proper.
Is that the end of the chapter?
This is the concluding verse.
Okay, one more verse.
Iti Shri Vasishtha Sangrahe Bhushundopakhyanam Nama Eka Vishaha Sargaha. Thus ends the 21st chapter titled The Story of Bhushunda in the Abridgment of Yoga Vasishtha.
All right, we'll end a little bit early. We have about another 5-10 minutes. We have time for questions. Is there anything this chapter has brought up that's sparked questions, or any other subject that you may have doubts about? Fire away.
I will take the floor. I just been having a lot of realizations, but the minute I think about it, then it is who's having the realization. And I always come back to this, but I've been playing, I don't know, I've been very happy and just smiling to myself, not really talking about it, because there's really not much to talk about from the standpoint of, I don't know. So I don't know what I'm trying to say.
I'm glad you've been having realizations and insights. That's wonderful.
But then again, it is, well, who's having this thought? Who's having?
Yeah. You know, just because you know that the body, mind, intellect isn't you doesn't make it go poof and disappear, Cecily.
Yeah.
You know, it still goes on as long as you have prarabdha. And to get really nitty gritty, What is it that we want? We want peace. We want some happiness. How do we get some peace? How do we find happiness? When the mind is deluded and I think I'm my body, when I think I'm a person, I get all caught up in vancha, in wanting, which is fundamentally painful. When I get attached to this world and want to control and have it my way, it's not very successful.
Yeah.
So the mind of the woman of steady wisdom wears this life like a loose garment, stays unattached, knows that the self in me is never touched by any of it. And where's happiness? Happiness is the mind staying home in the self. How do I achieve that? Quit jonesing. Let go of the craving. Rather than trying to satisfy the desires, let go. In the end, it's very simple. Very simple.
Yeah.
Because it's the human mind that has the problem, not the self.
Yes.
Self doesn't have any problems. How do I find peace of mind? I find peace of mind by letting go and keeping my heart open. Doing the very things that Bushunda suggests. Give up regret for the past. Let go of worry about the future. Accept everyone. Doesn't mean you have to like everyone. It means you have to accept everyone. Without the compulsion to fix or change people. Good question, sweetheart. Good comments. Anybody else?
Kind of a practical meditation question.
Sure.
So in this section, talking about the pranayama and the Raja Yoga traditions of like doing breath work, and I guess it seemed to me like you kind of position those as different than the style of meditation that's done in Jnana Yoga. I'm just thinking like my personal experience, I started meditating through Vipassana, and like it's like the first 3 days of Vipassana you spend basically focusing on your breath, and then even going to classes with you, like the first intro class, the way you teach people to meditate is like focus on your breath coming out of your nose or on your diaphragm. So if we're not focusing on our breath and we're not doing that type of meditation, like what are we actually doing?
Well, those are good ways to start. But then the primary meditative practice of our tradition is Atma Vichara, inquiry into the nature of the self. So as any material arises, to whom did this arise? To me, who am I? Continuing to introvert the attentive faculty, endeavoring to notice the knower itself. To withdraw all that attention and energy from the external world. So watching the breath is valuable, but it's a starting point.
I think I've been missing something for a while. It's like I hear you say that all the time, and I just kind of take it as like an intellectual thing. Like we're supposed to think about that intellectually, but like then during meditation, we're supposed to not be thinking about anything, and we're supposed to kind of like clear our minds. So I never try to do that during meditation.
Try it. See what happens.
So it's like, how do you do that without thinking?
Well, it's a matter of developing the habit to keep the attentive faculty focused inward. not outward. And as long as the attentive faculty is focused on the breath, the question is, who sees the breath and the space between the breaths? That's what you want to do. Who are you? That's the goal. Find out who you are. Anybody else have anything to add?
Well, I guess I'll just say I think I need to do more thinking on this.
Or let's do some either talk on the phone or come on over sometime outside of class.
Mm-hmm.
We can sit together and kind of do a little practice together.
Okay.
Way to escape baby duty. Any other thoughts, comments? All right, we'll end here. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Sri Guru Pyo Namaha. Hari Om.